Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
Hey, I'm 950 Weather. I'm Patrick Lilia. Rain tonight and a low of 43, then more rain Wednesday and a high of 46.
Fire up Minnesota with a smoking hot deal on a new gas, charcoal, or pellet grill from Warner Stellian. You still get free assembly, free delivery, and 18 months no-interest financing. Get your new grill from the specialists, Minnesota's own Warner Stellian.
Good day to be indigenous.
Get up, stand up.
They are going to become more brutal.
Because all the hippies were trying to be Indians anyway.
They're going to become more repressive because it's a matter of dollars and their illusionary concepts of power.
Hey, Victor.
We must live in balance with the earth.
And also with recent happenings at Wounded Knee.
I am awake. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in four directions. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade. We talk about national and local Native news, and as we all know, Native issues are human issues, and human issues are Native issues.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. You can call them at 651-304-9986 Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with your COVID-19 questions.
Wow, great read, Wendy.
One in a row.
You should have your own radio show.
Yeah, maybe I will someday.
Let's put a teaser
something
out
about
there.
Animals.
Yes, that's awesome. I hope I can be a guest.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Hey, so it's Tuesday, so that's Nancy Beaulieu and her gang takes over the show, and we find out what's happening via pipelines in the deep north and the occupied north.
Yeah, Nancy Beaulieu is from Bimi'ji 350.
And Rise Coalition.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, one of the founders of Rise Coalition.
Yeah.
But before we get going too far into our own lives and how we're feeling as old people, Wendy, we should probably start out here with Ogama in the news. Welcome, Ogama.
Hi, Anim Buju, everybody. Thanks for passing it over to me. I wanted to cover something I touched on yesterday. But first, a little bit of info on the Stop Line 3 front. It's important that you mentioned the occupied north. The Intercept obtained documents regarding the Northern Lights Task Force and what they've been doing to set up and respond to pipeline resistance. So apparently, this past September, the teams that are part of the Northern Lights Task Force, which is a coalition of state and local law enforcement and public safety agencies, gathered at Camp Ripley, which is a Minnesota National Guard training center on the Mississippi River just south of the pipeline route. And the exercise they did was called Operation River Crossing. So the manual is actually public information, and it goes on to describe basically a situation in which a civil unrest situation with threats to public safety, including criminal damage to property, obstruction of transportation, assaults, threats to bystanders, and rioting. Basically, the fictional setup that they did was that a small group of protesters had started threatening pipeline workers and law enforcement officials and lobbing balloons filled with urine and deer repellent. Which is kind of absurd. None of the actions that have happened have had anything close to that. But I wanted to just kind of draw attention to that, there's public money that's being spent in these exercises and getting the police ready to meet what are peaceful protesters in northern Minnesota. And currently, there's about $500,000 that has been distributed to law enforcement agencies, and that was as of March 15th, which is through the Minnesota Public Utilities Commission that is funded by Enbridge. The account is not meant to be used for equipment unless it's considered personal protective equipment. Basically, they're not even allowed to purchase like cutting tools to cut protesters who engage in direct action by hooking themselves to some sort of machinery. But in Hubbard County, Enbridge actually donated cutting tools separately from that escrow account. So they're finding ways around this. Currently at this time, no use of chemical munitions has been reported, so they haven't tear gassed anybody. But we do know from Nancy Beaulieu yesterday at the World Water Day that there was several $100,000 that were spent in Beltrami County that include these types of riot gear and equipment. So, the next Standing Rock is definitely coming to Minnesota, right, Robert?
Oh, and yep, absolutely. We've been fearing this for a long time, and Enbridge has been getting ready for it, and so we have to resist and divest.
Always, always. So then the other thing I wanted to talk about was something I just touched briefly on yesterday. So the Star Tribune just released an article last week talking about forever chemicals, which is another thing that I believe Nancy Beaulieu's mentioned on one of our shows at some point. So forever chemicals are also known as PFAS, PFAS. They are toxic man-made chemicals. It stands for polyfluoroalkyl substances. So they're a group of man-made chemicals that have been manufactured and used in a variety of industries since about the 1940s. So a lot of the closed dumps in Minnesota are leaking high levels of this toxic chemical directly into the groundwater in Minnesota. And a growing body of science has found that there are potential adverse health effects associated with PFAS exposure, including liver damage, thyroid disease, decreased fertility, high cholesterol, obesity, hormone suppression, and cancer. These chemicals can easily migrate into the air, dust, food, soil, and water. And basically, the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency wants more money to try to help determine the full scope of the problem. Groundwater at one landfill near the Iowa border in Minnesota actually shows the PFAS contamination was more than 1,000 times the Minnesota drinking water health standard, which is worse than the levels at the former Washington County landfill where the 3M company manufactured the chemicals. And this is directly from the Star Tribune article. So the MPCA released the findings at a news conference and have asked the legislature for authority to tap into the state's closed landfill investment fund, which currently has about $122 million in it. The MPCA does not know how much money it's going to cost the state to tackle this problem until it examines more landfills. And they're currently creating a strategy for monitoring these chemicals at all permitted landfills and determining how best to handle basically what's happening. So these chemicals really don't break down easily, and it's difficult to get rid of them. They're not even sure if even hazardous waste incineration can destroy all of these. And even the US EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency, is actively researching new technologies to try to destroy these chemicals. So it's really, really scary news. And I wanted to bring it up and make sure that we were able to get people aware of this. If you do check the Star Tribune, they do have a map. I'll make sure to, if I can, get a copy of the map and put it up on Native Roots Radio for you guys that are tuning in on our Facebook page. You can check it and see how close it is to you. The worst contamination that they found was at what was called the Old Gopher landfill, which is near Fairmont in Martin County. And the PFAS levels, the PFAS levels, exceeded state drinking water standards by 1,300 times, which is nearly double the second highest level found, which was in Freeway landfill in Dakota County, which is very nearby. So make sure you're staying aware on the quality of your drinking water in Minnesota.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow.
That is an eye-opening report there, and I really appreciate you talking about that, Ogama. It's really, I mean, it makes sense, right? Piles and piles of garbage, these landfills. I remember in Oceanside, when I lived on Oceanside, Long Island, when I was there as a kid, the land was flat. It was perfectly flat. Now, I mean, it's like a pretty good skiing slope.
It's a mountain.
It's a mountain now.
It's
And it has all the methane gas, the
Plugs or whatever.
plugs that there's always a fire going on. And on a really hot summer day, I mean, from miles, you could just kind of smell that garbagey, kind of nasty smell. And how could anybody think that this doesn't seep into the ground, into the water table, right? Into the watersheds and goes out into our other bodies of water.
Exactly. Let's start the news out with some real stuff and how it affects Indian country all over Minnesota and the United States. Ogama, as always, Peeny Gigi for your insight and your news specials. It really starts to show off in a good way. And sometimes it's hard to hear what we got to hear, right, Wen?
Oh, absolutely. But we need to hear it so we can do something about it.
So up next, we have Nancy Beaulieu of Bimi'ji 350 and Rise Coalition. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short break.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
When you're trying to stay safe, you want the best protection possible. And when it comes to PPE, that means Lutema. Made in the USA with the highest quality materials, Lutema has mask sizes for all. Lutema masks pass ASTM Level 3 and NIOSH efficiency standards and come in a wide variety of colors and types, including M95i. Get your American-made face mask at Lutema.com. That's Lutema.com. And get 40% off your first purchase single item with promo code RADIO at Lutema.com.
Minnesota has the only original wolf population in the continental United States, and 80% of Minnesotans believe the wolf should be protected. Howling for Wolves is asking Minnesotans to respect our true wildlife manager, the wolf. Their survival is critical to our ecosystems, our communities, and even our economy. As highly intelligent animals with strong social bonds, Minnesota wolves deserve to be protected and admired. Learn more at howlingforwolves.org. Let's live and let howl.
The pandemic has all of us spending more time in our homes. This has led to a serious reduction in indoor air quality in many homes. Let AirSeal Tech improve your indoor air quality and make your home warmer and more comfortable while enjoying energy savings with their home performance upgrades. Call AirSeal Tech at 612-888-3664 and visit their website, airseal.tech, to get their free home performance guide to learn how your home should work as a system. That's AirSeal Tech. They bring comfort home.
Hey, welcome to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanjahare.
This portion of the show is brought to you by the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. Call them at 651-304-9986 Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. with your COVID-19 questions.
I thought we might howl or something, but or do the MN 351, but this is
That's after the next.
okay.
I'm
Okay,
over here. I'm very organized.
that's awesome. Hey, I hear a little weird feedback, but hey, so this is Tuesday, and Tuesday is Nancy Beaulieu Day, and we really appreciate Nancy, and she's with Bimi'ji 350 and Rise Coalition, and welcome Nancy Beaulieu.
Well, good evening. And I just always honored to hold this space, and I always feel knowledge is power, and this is a good place to find out what's happening here in northern Minnesota. So I just want to give a big shout out to all of the water protectors that stood with us yesterday for the World Water Day prayer here in northern Minnesota. And I also want to give a quick invite. Next Tuesday, we're going to be here in Bimi'ji having a community round dance. So we're calling on our drums and our dancers to help hold space and remind our local elected officials that we're still here, because we see that our sheriff's department has spent $189,000 to support the Line 3 pipeline, but yet we have our county commissioners, not all, but some, saying that, we don't need to talk about Line 3 here at the Beltrami County Commissioners level because it's not running through our county anymore. So why is it any of our business? Well, if it's not any of our business, we shouldn't be spending $189,000 to support that project. So we just want to remind them in a really good way that we're still here, and it's time to start listening to our local Native tribal nations, the White Earth, Red Lake, and Leech Lake, in regards to the Line 3 opposition. So I think a lot of good energy, like we've seen at the Trump rally. We're going to kind of duplicate that, and so we're going to have a good time, and it's always nonviolent, peaceful, and prayerful. So again, next Tuesday, and that will be down at the waterfront, and we'll have more details. And tomorrow we'll have a Facebook event, so you can follow the Indigenous Environmental Network, Rise Coalition, and the White Earth Norman Protector Camp for some of those details. And tonight we have two guests on. One is going to give us a quick update on the Minnesota Court of Appeals of oral arguments in the Line 3 pipeline. And joining us is Natalie Cook from the Sierra Club. So a big welcome to Natalie, and thank you for being here and sharing this much needed information. And it's on you, Natalie.
Yes, well, thanks for having me. So today was one of 3 lawsuits were heard at the Minnesota State Court of Appeals. It was the oral arguments, so it was when the parties got to show up and present some of what they want to have to say to a panel of 3 judges at the Court of Appeals, and then Enbridge got a chance to respond, and then we got a chance to say the final word. We're expecting a decision from the State Court of Appeals in June. And so the State Court of Appeals is looking at both the environmental impact statement, the certificate of need, and the route permit. So basically all of the decisions that the Public Utilities Commission made decisions on. And in those lawsuits was the White Earth, Red Lake, and Mille Lacs tribes, as well as Honor the Earth, the Sierra Club, Friends of the Headwaters, and the Minnesota Department of Commerce. So we heard from all of the sides. The attorneys showed up and did a really great job. The judges seemed engaged. They asked a lot of questions. Everyone could watch it, which was sort of, new that it was on Zoom. There was over 300 people watching it today, and now we keep fighting on the front lines and supporting the front lines while we wait that decision in June.
And, Natalie, just eavesdropping today in the hearing, it felt, the judges were asking the right questions, and some of the questions that really, really stand out, the environmental impact study and the route, the need. And I think, just eavesdropping kind of, for the first time in a long time, it felt the right questions were being asked, and that the rebuttals were so strong, and it feels like I left with some hope today. And I don't have a whole lot of hope in this fight in these agencies, but can you reflect on that a little bit and how people felt? Like maybe, I know you guys debriefed after, and what kind of energy y'all shared, and looking forward, what do we expect?
Yeah, so I've talked to a few folks on the phone since the hearing this morning, and lots of folks were feeling hope for it. And we did have a debrief afterwards. The judges seem to be digging into, who gets to decide how we're defining need and demand and supplies, right? Because part of what particularly the State Department of Commerce is arguing is that Enbridge didn't give a demand forecast as they're required to under the state law, that they gave actually a supply forecast, that they gave, we have a supply, there's a supply of oil, we need to move it, not there's a consumer demand for oil and proving that. And whose burden is it to prove that there's a need for the oil? Is it Enbridge's? Is it parties? Is it the Department of Commerce? So they really dug into that in a really deep way, and they were also digging into how the state chose to look at oil spills in the Lake Superior water basin, really digging into some of the details around that. So it was good questions. They were engaged. And, next what we're looking for, so this is one of the appeals. There's also an appeal of the federal 404 water crossing permit at the federal courts. And then there's also an appeal or a lawsuit. Some advocacy groups and tribes are suing the State Pollution Control Agency around the state water crossing permits too. So they're all upcoming. I keep a chart because there's a lot of them to keep straight.
Right. So what can our listeners do to help stop this pipeline? I know it's far, and basically, just looking at what we saw yesterday, there's not a whole lot of work going on because of the thawing of the rivers and some of the restrictions on our road. But what are some of the ways that you can tell our listeners how they could support our movement yet?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I think that's something that can feel hard, around the courts, which, right, like we don't get to talk to judges. We shouldn't get to talk to judges. But, people showed up today with banners and with lights earlier outside of the Court of Appeals building. And I think, I often, when I get that question, I say, listen to the folks on the front lines, be listening to those who are most impacted, make sure you're following camps on social media and showing up when you're asked to show up. So like Monday, Nancy, what you were just talking about is a great example. When you're asked to show up, figure out how to show up. If you can't show up in person right now, figure out like what are your skills, what are your interests, and dive into, the leadership roles that you can fill with the skills that you have. And so the other thing folks can do is anything you can do to be pressuring President Biden on it. I'm hopeful, right? We're all hopeful that the judges were asking great questions, but we don't have control over what the judges are going to decide. Like, I want to pressure the decision makers that we elect to represent us, and President Biden could revoke the federal permits, which would stop construction. And those permits were issued in the final days of the Trump administration. We don't have to pretend that they're anything but a handout to the oil industry, right? Like, they didn't do real review. It's important that the federal government revokes those permits, goes back to look at them, and stops construction while they're looking at them. So tweet, tag the president, write, call into their comment line, join the virtual rallies, call your Minnesota Congress people and our senators, tell them that they need to be pressuring President Biden to revoke the permits, and just be calling into everyone who will listen.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing the update and informing our listeners of ways they can participate. And then, this Friday, we have the youth runners that inspired Standing Rock that are going to be here in northern Minnesota. And they're going to actually stop on through to pick up a couple of our youth here in Minnesota, and they're going to stand in solidarity, and they're going to go to Washington, D.C., and request that DAPL and Stop Line 3 take place, or no DAPL takes place and no Line 3. So we're kind of excited for that. That's here in northern Minnesota. And again, you could follow us on our Facebook pages and get some more information on that. IEN is just working on that in the moment right now to share that. So if you're out there and you're listening and you know you're somewhere close to northern Minnesota, Friday from 11 to 5 at the White Earth Monoman Protector Camp, we're going to have some great company, and we're going to go down to the bridge after that, and we're going to drum and pray. So visit with us Friday.
Awesome. Hey, you're listening to Native Roots Radio Presents I'm Awake, and we'll be right back after this short message.
Stay with us.
Say it again.
Stay with us.
All right, we'll be
Yeah.
right back.
If you're hurting in your relationship or have been affected by sexual violence, you're not alone. Strong Hearts Native Helpline can help you through these difficult and uncertain times. Strong Hearts Helpline is a free 24/7 confidential domestic dating and sexual violence helpline for Native Americans. Help is available by calling 1-844-762-8483 or by clicking on the Chat Now icon on strongheartshelpline.org. This message is sponsored by the National Indigenous Women's Resource Center.
Finding the right lawyer is incredibly stressful. It can be tough to know even where to start. Don't just run an internet search for an attorney. Start with the Minnesota Lawyer Referral and Information Service, an enhanced program of the Hennepin and Ramsey County Bar Associations. They'll connect you with over 200 thoroughly vetted, qualified attorneys practicing in over 50 areas of law. Call 612-752-6699 or go to mnlawyerreferral.org. The right call for the right lawyer.
This is Santita Jackson, Minneapolis, St. Paul. I couldn't be more excited about starting our days together, Monday through Friday, 6 to 8 a.m. Central on the Progressive Voice of Minnesota.
Stop mowing the lawn. There are better ways to spend your time. Minnehaha Falls Landscaping can help you save time and money by installing no-mow, bee-friendly lawns. It's time to turn off your noisy lawnmower and catch the buzz with happy native pollinators. Low-maintenance, low-cost landscaping makes life easier for bees, butterflies, and you. So save money, save bees, and save your weekend. Visit MinnehahaFallsLandscape.com. That's MinnehahaFallsLandscape.com.
We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Works St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986. Hey, Cudahy to all my friends and relatives in 4 directions. This is Robert Pilot of Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. I'm here to ask you for your support. Finding honest Native-centered news is not easy. But with your support, we're able to provide accurate information about Standing Rock, Line 3, treaty violations, and COVID-19 in our Native communities. Please visit Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon and donate if you can. That's Native Roots Radio Network on Patreon. Pinigigi, and thank you for your support.
Hey, Ogama, I've been hearing a lot about this term, climate justice. What is that?
Climate justice is recognizing that the negative impacts of climate change don't affect all people equally. It also means transitioning from a fossil fuel-based economy to a more sustainable future. MN350 is one of the groups that's pushing for this transition to protect our futures. You can even get involved too.
That's great, especially since I'm concerned about pipeline projects like Line 3. How can I help MN350?
Just find them on Facebook or visit mn350.org.
AM 950 weather. I'm Patrick Lilia. Rain tonight and a low of 43, then more rain Wednesday and a high of 46. Crooner Supper Club off Moore Lake and Highway 65 in Fridley has some new ways you can safely enjoy the best jazz in the Twin Cities. Both their concert rooms feature new ventilation systems, raised ceilings, and protective plexiglass for front row seating. Plus, Crooners will present one free live stream concert per week. More at croonersmn.com.
Hi, this is Representative Sharice Davids from Kansas. I'm Ho Chunk, and you're listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are a loose nation. Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Wakanja Hade.
This portion of the show is brought to you by MN350, a grassroots organization fighting for climate justice.
I don't get to howl still.
Not yet, not till the next one.
All right, cool. Hey, well, let's hand the show back over to Nancy Beaulieu, Bimi'ji 350.
And oops, are we on? Okay. All right.
Good.
So, I just gave a little sneak peek about what Friday looks like. And so our next guest is Joseph White Eyes. He's a 25-year-old from the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe, and he is a direct action support coordinator with the Cheyenne River Grassroots Collective, and he's been involved with the Dakota Access Pipeline since early 16, and he's heavily involved, and he was a part of last month's run. And I don't want to do all the talking here, so I want to bring up Joseph, and maybe he can give us a current update of what that run was about last month and where we're going April 1st. So welcome, Joseph.
Yeah, can you hear me? Yeah, so my name is Joseph Whiteeyes. Like Nancy said, I'm part of Cheyenne River Grassroots Collective as a direct action support coordinator. So we were approached by some of the young people up on the Standing Rock Reservation about that run that happened last month. And, a lot of our members, a lot of our young people here from our reservation, we're located right underneath the Standing Rock Sioux tribe. Our young people have been involved with those runs in the past when they ran to Omaha, Nebraska, delivering the petition of, over, I think it was 20,000 signatures, giving it to the Army Corps of Engineers. And then again, later that year in 2016, running to Washington, D.C., where we have all over 140,000 signatures, delivering it to Obama and the National Army Corps of Engineers headquarters in Washington, D.C. Last month that run, we figured, well, we're getting, or we have a new president there, one that will hopefully listen to us and one that says he wants to be known as a climate president. We figured, well, let's run again and let's see what kind of, action he can do that he forgot to do or that he didn't do in 2016 when he was in office as the vice president of the United States. So yeah, we started on Cheyenne River, our northern border, and we ran all the way back up to Ocheti-Shakoi camp, where they had an ODAPL resistance camp back in 2016 till early 2017. And we delivered that same message that we sent when we ran to Washington, D.C., stating that we didn't want the Dakota Access Pipeline. And we basically called out Biden, for not acting on the Dakota Access Pipeline when it was one of the biggest fights. It could be of the century, it could be of the decade, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, this movement that was built around the Dakota Access Pipeline had well over, 20,000 indigenous people that came to one central area. The Lakota people called on them and asked them to, step up and stand with us because we're fighting for our lives here. We're fighting for our water. And we had all these Native people come from all over the world to stand and support, in solidarity against the Dakota Access Pipeline. So that's what that message was about that run, was just really telling Biden to stop this pipeline. If you could stop the Keystone XL pipeline, another pipeline I've been heavily involved with, you can stop this pipeline. And yeah, so that's what that run was about. And
So you guys ran like close to 100 miles in sub-zero on in early February, correct?
yeah, it was negative 17 degrees in the morning when we started running. I didn't think we'd be able to make it, but we did. The resiliency and the everything that we all had within us to continue that run and to really make it possible was there. We felt our ancestors. It started with a prayer and ended with a prayer. Yeah, it was a really powerful moment.
Right. And
Joseph, that's really amazing. I'm wondering, like, where did you stop along the way, like to get something to eat or go to the bathroom, or how was that?
Well, on the way up back to a Chetishakoe camp from Cheyenne River, each vehicle we had 3 groups riding 10 miles at a time, so we kind of did a leapfrog type of run. Every vehicle had their waters, had their snacks, had everything that they needed for those runners to be comfortable and safe and really taken care of. On the way up too, there was a few towns that we stopped in, so that was our break when we needed a break. So. But we finished it we started at 7 a.m. in the morning Mountain Time, and we ended the run at 5 p.m. Mountain Time. So we made it there within 10 hours, running over 100 miles.
Are you a regular runner, like a marathon runner, or is it something that you just kind of did for this particular event?
It was something I did for this event. I'm not a runner personally, but back, when the whole Standing Rock movement was happening in 2016, I was approached by my sister, Bobby Jean Three Legs, and she asked me to if I wanted to run to Washington, D.C., and I'm like, are you crazy? But I mean, everyone has these stories about what called them to Standing Rock, and it was all these spiritual connections. It was just something pulling them there. But for me, in the beginning, I feel like I didn't have that opportunity to say, hey, I was called for a spiritual reason. I felt like, for me personally, I was there because there was nobody else there at the time, and somebody had to do it. And so that's what encouraged me to run. That's what encouraged me to be highly involved with the No DAPL movement was because that somebody had to do it and make sure it got done,
Right. And I just want to make note, I was a LPN student when Standing Rock was born, and I live fed every moment of everything you guys were doing. And then there was that one day my heart was so compelled, I had to go to Standing Rock, and I kept going and I kept going. But, what I learned from Standing Rock was that, like you just said, people really need to step it up and protect our water. And sometimes we have to make sacrifices and give up, the fun stuff. But at the same time, what good is anything else if we don't have clean water? So that's, one reason why I stepped it up. And I want to say a big thank you to all you people in Standing Rock for welcoming there, and I felt like I was at home. And I also carried a small piece of that fire back home, and I've been doing the line 3 resistance since then. And we do see community again in smaller camps, but it feels good to have that sense of community back. And that's kind of one of the biggest things I miss about Standing Rock was we cared for each other. We were a sense of community again, and we lived with purpose, and we lived for something bigger than ourselves. And I think, being in these movements and inspiring each other is what we got to continue to do. And so, Friday, you guys are going to be in northern Minnesota here. You want to share a little bit about that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so we're working alongside, as the Cheyenne River Grassroots Collective, we're working with the Indigenous Environmental Network, and we're working with the Standing Rock Youth Council, not the tribe itself, but the youth council that was formed there some years back. And we decided, well, if he's not going to listen to us on this run that took place about a month ago, we're like, why don't we just take it to DC, take it straight to him? With that, we're going to be the first big, mass mobilization in DC since, the Capitol takeover. So a lot of people are really looking at that to see how things play out with the whole National Guard and all of that stuff still in Washington, DC, what it's going to look like on the ground with a mass mobilization of, young people in that area. As you said, we're going to be stopping up in line 3. So with organizing this whole thing to Washington, DC, we figured, why don't we involve line 3? So we connected with you and a few others from the line 3 movement to really push Biden to not only stop the Dakota Access Pipeline, but to stop, line 3 as well, because we can't have one pipeline stopped while the others are still being built and call it a victory. That's bullcrap if we call that a victory, if we have one stop, but all these other, extractive industries are happening all over the country and happening all over are still going forward with their, work with, digging up Mother Earth, digging up the ground. So, like you said, we're going to be stopping through, we'll be arriving Thursday night, and on Friday, from 11 to 5, we'll be having that water ceremony, a little rally, and a few other things that we're going to be doing with you guys on the ground. So we're looking forward to coming, through, picking up a few of your individuals and taking them all the way to DC with us so that we can get, both messages across of stopping line 3, stopping Dakota Access Pipeline, and really holding, President Biden accountable as the climate president he wants to be. So.
Yeah. Hey, is there a place where we can support your work? Is there a website that we can scoot people to support? Because I know running is free, but not eating and sleeping and things like that. So where can we, Joseph, where can we support you?
Yeah, for sure. So we're going to be releasing a thing online. We mainly use Facebook as our collective. You can follow the Shenandoah Grassroots Collective on how to support on the front lines. You can follow Indigenous Rising Media. A lot of the information will be pumped off of that Facebook page. And you can follow the Standing Rock Youth Council. All 3 of those pages will be cross-posting basically the same information. So if you want to support us in any way, follow those pages. I haven't been directly involved with all of, how to support us or how to keep us moving forward, but any information you think you'll need to support this movement, to support this caravan to DC, follow those 3 pages. They'll have all the information you need. So.
Awesome.
Right.
Hey, I want to thank Nancy Beaulieu and Nancy's guest for bringing in the truth here every Tuesday. Nancy, you got 10 seconds. You got a final word before we let you go.
Friday, the Mississippi Bridge by the LaSalle State Park. Bring your dresses and your drums, and let's support the youth runners on their way to DC from 11 to 5. And follow us on Rise Coalition and Water Protector Camp, our Monoman Protector Camp, White Earth, and Bimi'ji 350 for those locations and event details, and Miigwech.
Be right back. You're listening to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake. Hey, Wendy, what are we doing for dinner after the show?
How about we go to J. Selby's on 169 Victoria Street in St. Paul? They have a delicious plant-based menu that's compassionate and environmentally sustainable.
I'm getting their spot-on vegan Big Mac, the dirty secret.
You can pick up and they deliver within a 5-mile radius, or you can call them at 651-222-3263 or visit jselbys.com.
Well, you sold me, Wen. Let's go order at J. Selby's tonight.
I'm hungry. We have vital information we would like to share with you. The Department of Indian Works St. Paul partnered with the Minnesota Department of Health to open the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline. They provide information on testing sites, isolation space, vaccines, housing assistance, and food resources. If you or someone you know has questions about COVID-19 or has questions to determine if you should get tested, please call them at 651-304-9986. Again, the number is 651-304-9986. The Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline is open for calls Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m.
Call the Twin Cities American Indian COVID-19 hotline at 651-304-9986. That's 651-304-9986.
We are your relatives,
We are your relations,
brothers,
sisters,
sons.
daughters.
And some of us are your grandchildren.
We are your community. Historically, we held places of honor and respect. Because of the impact of colonization, some of us are rejected, thrown out from family, friends, and community, set up as targets for sexual violence, sex trafficked, humiliated, tortured, and murdered. Everybody has the right to be safe. We are your relatives. Remember,
Homophobia is not traditional.
Sponsored by the Minnesota Indian Women's Sexual Assault Coalition.
I'm Lieutenant Governor Peggy Flanagan, and you are listening to Native Roots Radio.
We are Alusa Nation.
Hey, welcome back to Native Roots Radio presents I'm Awake, and I'm your host, Robert Pilot.
And this portion of the show is brought to you by Howling for Wolves, protecting wolves for future generations. That's when we hail. You know what? Before we even get started, Robert, I want to give someone a shout out. I want to give Karen a shout out.
Yeah.
So Karen and Maya, I think, are listening to the show. So that's fantastic. I just want to wish you well, Karen, and get a speedy recovery and feel good.
Yeah. Hey, I want to wish happy to our first fan ever. I'm sure she's listening.
Tiergan.
Yes.
Yes.
I want to give a shout out to her.
Awesome.
Because I just saw her a couple of weeks ago. It was great to see her.
Mm-hmm.
I was doing some live streaming, so I couldn't really talk. But it's
Yeah.
always great to see her, and she's doing good. And
Absolutely.
yeah.
Fantastic. That's great. My name is Wendy Pilot. My Native American name is Hanajihi, and I was given that name by Curtis, my Dega. So as always, Curtis, thank you very much. I am a humane policy volunteer leader for the Humane Society of the United States. I work on animal issues at the local and state level. And I'm going to be talking about a story today that's kind of hard to hear, but I need to get it out there, and I need people to be aware, and maybe some people could even help. So I got a message today from a mutual friend of Robert and I on Facebook Messenger asking what this person should do. And it's really hard. So this woman, Teresa, she runs a cat rescue. It's called We Are Fur. WERFURR. Ogama will put that up on our live Facebook feed. And it's a really horrible story. What happened is a guy who owns cats in White Earth, in the White Earth area. And Teresa was called to the res to rescue this poor cat, but a known abuser, who is the cat's owner, cut the cat's toe off. Now, this guy was caught by two people. He was caught by two people. Tribal came, but they let him go. And this is a problem. Like, why is Tribal letting this known animal abuser go? They have photographic pictures that show the abuse that happened to this cat. The cat right now is in good hands. It's at a vet. It's getting pain meds, and the toe is already badly infected. So the cat's getting antibiotic therapy for that too. But I want to put this guy out on blast. This guy has been known to abuse other animals and other cats. This guy also has another cat in his possession, an orange cat. Teresa, she left a message with the state, and she's going to also put a call into the tribal chair to see what else can be done. The person's name who cut the toe off the cat. His name is Perry Crabb, and he lives on the White Earth Reservation. People really should sign a petition and get him in trouble. He needs to be arrested, and this really needs to be taken care of. The PayPal for the rescue is again WE space the letter R, the letter space FURR, FURR. 71% of domestic violence victims report that their abuser also targets pets. And there's a direct correlation between animal abuse and other crimes towards people. So Teresa was told that this person would not be arrested for any animal abuse unless he hurts a person. So we have to wait for him to hurt a person. And unfortunately, I'm just going to read a little bit here. This is from the Humane Society of the United States. It's Animal Cruelty Facts and Stats. And it's kind of sad to listen. The shocking number of animal cruelty cases reported every day is just the tip of the iceberg. Most cases are never reported. Unlike violent crimes against people, cases of animal abuse are not compiled by state or federal agencies, making it difficult to calculate just how common they are. However, we can use the information that is available to try to understand and prevent cases of abuse. So really, who abuses animals? Cruelty and neglect across all social and economic boundaries, and media reports suggest that animal abuse is common in both rural and urban areas. This is a big problem. I want to just really, again, go back to the correlation with domestic violence and animal abuse. Data on domestic violence and child abuse cases reveal that a staggering number of animals are targeted by those who abuse their children or their spouse. So I hope that this person doesn't have any children or a partner or spouse with him, because I'm sure that there could be possibility of also more abuse. The state legislator trends. This is the hard part, that animal abuse laws and legislation aren't strong enough. I know, just working with the Humane Society of the United States, every year we have a Humane Lobby Week where we lobby for laws in Minnesota and all over the United States. Every state is lobbying for different laws. Everybody needs to just be aware that the correlation between animal abuse and people abuse is so strong. And I wanted to just read one of my favorite quotes of all time from Mahatma Gandhi, which is, the greatness of a nation and its moral progress can be judged by the way its animals are treated. Again, on our Facebook page, we put up the rescue organization that Teresa runs. It's called We Are Fur. We, W-E space R space F-U-R-R. They have a PayPal account, and if you feel inclined to possibly donate to help with the cat. By the way, the cat was renamed Sebastian by Teresa. So hopefully the cat will be recovering soon. And I just want to bring up this notion of animal abuse. It happens all the time, and we just need to have more strong
Well, we need
laws.
to call people out on it too. Not over the radio though, but we need to know that the next step is very easily abuse of children and abuse of women, of people. If you're going to be hurting a helpless animal, you're definitely There's no if and
You're
buts
capable
about.
of hurting
I
it
think
all.
it's more capable.
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I'm
I'm
not.
trying to be nice. Yeah.
I'm not a psychologist, but I
Mhm.
think it's more. So I've heard, and
Well, that the stat shows that 71% of domestic violence victims also report that their abuser also targeted their pets is strong evidence that it is directly correlated.
well, okay. Well, thank you, Wendy Peeney, for all you do, and especially, speaking your truth. That's beautiful, and I appreciate that. I would like to end with these thoughts. If you're listening to this show, you are part of the resistance. We're all on trial. From Chief Plentycoops, the ground on which we stand on is sacred ground. It is the blood of our ancestors. We need to resist, divest, join a group, run for office. Peeny Gigi to Nancy Beaulieu and her guests, and Wendy Pilot, and of course Ogama with the news. We are the seventh generation. We're still here. Free Leonard Peltier.
Are you wondering what's going on with our real estate market right now? Then why not become a house geek? Hi, I'm Kirk Duckwall with Bricks Real Estate,